Hey guys, it's Marshall with Camp Addict, and today we're going to install a SmartPlug on my Lance travel trailer. So basically what this does is this replaces the typical marine style 30 amp outlet or inlet plug here with a SmartPlug version, and then we're going to replace the cord end as well with, again, the SmartPlug version. So let's open this up and have at it. Just wanted to briefly talk about the advantage of the SmartPlug system versus the marine style twist lock. Just as a reminder of how this works, you've got three prongs here on a 30 amp system, and one of them's got a little L shape to it, so you've got to line it up with the one that's got the L shape on it here. And sometimes, you know, you got to figure out which one it is. You got to sit here and you got to line it up. You got to push it in, then you've got to twist it to lock it. And then this is the real fun part. Here's this ring. They never want to go on easily. Come on. And case in point. Yeah, case in point as to why you'd want to replace this. So that's how you have to do it here. And then you've got those three prongs in there. And this system's got a real issue with heating up. There's a lot of electrical resistance if you don't have those three prongs lined up properly, if you don't have it twisted, and the electrical resistance will then cause heat, and these are known to either melt or catch fire, which is not a good thing. Now you compare that to the SmartPlug. It's got three prongs again, but it's got no twist lock. It's got a shape to the head here where it just plugs in, and what it does is it just plugs in and locks in place. That's it. It's as simple as that. There's no twisting of a ring, there's no misalignment, and the electrical contacts on those three plugs is something like 20% better than what that has. So there is no chance of fire, and it's all watertight and sealed in here. It's a much superior system. And then just to unplug it, you just squeeze that and pull it out. But we'll show it to you again once we've got it installed. Alrighty, here's the contents of the SmartPlug conversion kit. Basically, the inlet here will be a direct replacement for what is on the trailer, and then the plug end will be a direct replacement for this, and that's pretty much all that's in here. So we'll go ahead and take that off first and see what's behind there. Simply just remove these 4 screws. And in theory, this should come off. And what we do is take this gasket off. And we got to figure out how to open this up to remove the wiring. Alrighty, well, this was fun. I had no idea how to take this apart to get access to the where the wire connects to the plug. So I just started undoing all screws in sight. There were 3 screws that held this faceplate on here. There were another 3 screws that were on this end of the plug, and then finally a screw on the back here that seemed to release everything. And what I've got here is you've got the 3 wires from the Romex cable, and you go ahead and you unscrew the 3 connections, and then that'll take the wire out of the plug. So that's what we will do next. Okay, I undid the 3 screws that hold the wires into the plug, and it simply just pulls off, and you've got access to the 3 wires. Then I'm going to go ahead and just remove this piece here and get ready to install these wires onto the SmartPlug. And we end up with a white, a black, and a ground, and it's color coded here. Green is ground, so that's the bare copper wire. Black is black and white is white. And we simply line them up. The instructions say that you're supposed to strip these back, I believe it's 5/8 of an inch, so that's just a little over half, so that's pretty close what we have here. And there is a tool, because this is actually a Allen key instead of a screw, and the Allen key comes in the SmartPlug toolkit.
That's nice.
So no special tools required. All the hardware is there. Okay, so we'll take the ground wire, put it in there, and then you simply tighten it down with the Allen key. Snug, but you don't want to, crank it in there. And then you'll do the same thing with the black. It starts to get a little fun right here because the wire is very stiff. Okay, I managed to wrangle the wires so that they would go straight in here. And we'll go ahead and just tighten these up. Again, it's really easily color-coded white and black. It's really hard to screw this up. Just want to make sure the wires get inside far enough so that these little set screws tighten down and get a good bite on the wire. And just make sure all three are snug. And it's that easy. So we're going to go ahead and push the wire back in inside the rig. Yeah, Romex wire is nice and stiff. There is a strain relief cap that goes on the back here, and you would use that per the instructions if you've got no clearance back here and the wires basically have to take a 90-degree dive one way or the other as you push it into your rig. However, I've got enough clearance where I do not need the strain relief, and this can just push back straight into the rig, so we won't use that. The SmartPlug does come with new hardware, so you have the option of using new hardware or your existing hardware. My existing hardware is actually a little bit larger diameter, so the holes will fit my existing hardware, and this is actually in really great shape, so we'll just go ahead and use the existing hardware. And what you do is you've got 4 screw holes here that in theory should line up with the existing 4 screws, and you just gotta punch it through the gasket here. Sort of pre-drilled holes in the gasket. You just have to coax the screws through. And then we'll go ahead and push it in. It's a fairly snug fit there. And it does look like the screws line up. Let me have to back the screws back out. Okay, now hopefully I can push it in without the screws getting in the way. Yep, there we go. You want to use your existing screw holes, so you want to make sure you're aimed at the right place. Not 100% happy with the way it's going in right now.
Are some of them not finding the holes?
It's just twisted slightly, just clocked slightly. So much better. Let's see if it goes in as we screw it in. Not happy. I don't want to force the screws in because it's just going into a wood backing, and I don't want to strip out the holes that they're screwing into. So I'll just back it out one more time. Try to push this in flush. Okay. Okay, and you can see as we're screwing it in, it's sucking the gasket in, completing the watertight seal. Just go around and make sure that each corner is being pulled in. And again, you don't want to tighten these down too much and strip the holes that they're screwing into, but you do want to have them tight enough where it creates a seal there with the gasket. So you can see it's a nice flush seal all the way around, and that portion of the SmartPlug is installed, and this actually stays open, unlike the old one which would flop down on you. So this is a far superior system, and that was actually gave me a little bit of problem there because it wasn't totally square, but really a simple install. So now we'll go ahead and do the cord end next. This is the fun part. So the instructions tell you to literally cut this end off. So say goodbye to this. I'm not quite sure that these side cutting pliers are big enough. But they will do the job.
Need those garden loppers I brought with me when I first hit the road.
Yeah, right. So we've see here we've got 3 wires. So the instructions say to cut this outer black sheathing back 1.25 inches. So we're going to use our highly calibrated eyeball and measure back 1.25 inches. And you want to make sure that you cut the sheathing, the outer black sheathing only, and not the wires inside or the sheathing around the wires. So just do a little bit more. And go ahead and cut this up this way so we can split it. And we can get rid of this thread in here. Let's go ahead and lop those off. And we'll go ahead and use our handy dandy wire strippers and strip 1/2 inch of each individual wire. And actually, I don't have big enough diameter, so we're going to do the old-fashioned way. When you're removing the insulation here, you want to make sure that you don't cut the wire itself. Again, we're looking to strip this back 1/2 inch. Make sure you don't cut too much of your finger off. So I went ahead and stripped back 1/2 inch of insulation on each wire. And then the next instructions are to separate this particular assembly, the plug end, and basically you do that by squeezing these releases and you kind of wiggle this out and this comes out. You want to go ahead and stick this relief, cord relief, you want to put it in the end here. So you kind of just have to finagle this in there. And you want to sort of, got to make sure that it pops in properly, and you do that by looking in here and you can see that it's not quite all the way in. Go ahead and get that
you
thing.
Can't really see it on camera, but you can tell by looking in there that it's not flush or a circle.
So you want to make sure that this is just all sealed. Yeah, sorry, it doesn't show up on camera. So you've got a problem. You've got this nice big thick cable that's got to go through this very small strain relief. So in theory, you use this cone tool here to fit it through, but you want to get it lubed up with liquid soap so it's nice and slippery. So the idea is to get it here on the end and get some on the cable itself. So hopefully that it's nice and slippery. And hopefully it will slip right in.
Interestingly enough, it can depend on what kind of soap you use. So we tried, what was that kind that you have? Like the Murphy? No. Anyway, it wasn't slippery enough, so we used this gel soap. Worked a lot better.
Well, so far.
Well, yeah, a lot better already.
Yikes. Ugh. Everything's really slippery except the actual... My hands are slipping all over the place here. Alrighty, and then you want to go ahead and push it through. What does this say? It says push it through 6 to 12 inches of cord is moved past the front of the connector body. Okay, and probably want to clean stuff up here a little bit. Then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, once we've got the fun job of getting the cord through the strain relief, we were going to go ahead and put the wires in the proper holes. They're once again color-coded green, white, and black, corresponding with green, white, and black wires, so it's pretty idiot-proof here and foolproof. So you want to go ahead and put the green wire in the green hole and take our trusty Allen key again and tighten it down. It's got some locking thread lock on there, so it has a little bit of effort to go ahead and tighten it in. Do the white one next. Okay, we've got all 3 wires in there, and we made sure that the Allen screws were snug. The next step is to put the strain relief on and use the supplied screws. Strain relief in theory is supposed to go over the black part. We've cut a little bit too much off. So when you're doing this, don't make this mistake. But it'll be fine. And take the screwdriver. With a Phillips head. And the idea here is that this strain relief sort of just stabilizes the wire, the cable, so that it doesn't put strain on these the ends where it goes into the connector itself. So once this is snugged down, you go ahead and move this forward if you can.
Soap it.
Now it tells you that you don't want to pull these together all the way. Man, that's tight.
Drop some liquid soap down in there.
I don't want to. Yeah, you could lube it up. But what you want to do when you're pulling it together, you want to make sure you've got, because of the shape of this here, it's got to be the right shape. So make sure you're pulling it and you don't have it 180 degrees off.
Well, why wouldn't soap help? I mean,
Soap would help. I just don't want to leave the soap in there.
Yeah, well, you'd have to.
Okay, I was able to pull these together. You don't want to pull it all the way together. You want to leave maybe 1/8 of an inch, and then what you do is you push it together to seat it down. And then you've got 3 screw holes. You can see 1 screw's in there already. Use the supplied screws and you tighten this down. You do not want to over torque it because you're just screwing into plastic. So you want to snug it, but you don't want to go all crazy with it. And so just use a light touch and torque it down, and do that with all 3. So once you have all 3 of those screws done, there's 1 step left, and that is the gasket here that helps with the weather tight seal. The gasket has adhesive on one side, so you just peel off the backing. And again, make sure that you put it on the proper way. What you want to do is get it down inside here. And you can take a blunt object, in this case a screwdriver, and get it seated down in there. And you just want to carefully go through all the way around, push it to seat it down in there, and make sure that the seal itself is not deformed. So you want to make sure that it's in there nice and snug, so we'll go ahead and do that. Now that we have the gasket in there, we can go ahead and plug the plug into the receptacle. And you see how it's much simpler than the old system. Simply lift up on that. You push in. You want to, these 2 catches here will snap into position. They'll lock into position. 1, 2, and then that's it. And now it's in there really secure. And you just do that down and boom, you're done. Again, that's just a simple plug-in system, much superior electrical connection inside here. And to undo it, you simply pinch both of these and pull out, and you're done. Much, much easier. So I'm looking forward to using this SmartPlug system. This again is the 30 amp version. There's also a 50 amp version. Installs the same. If you notice, the receptacle side was much easier to install. This gave us a little problem here with the strain relief, but that just means that the strain relief is very effective. And looking forward to using this.
1, 2, 3.